Hi guys, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to sew the Amelia skirt. This is a elasticated waist pattern that runs in sizes 6 to 32 and is perfect for beginners. You can either use the pattern pieces provided in the pattern or you can cut out the measurements in the instructions directly onto your fabric. I'm using this really gorgeous cotton fabric that has a really nice amount of drape and it will help create a really lovely gathered skirt. The first thing we're going to want to do is take one waistband piece with the right side facing up, and we're going to place one on top of the other with the right sides together and pin along the side seams. Sew along the side seams using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I've just sewn the side seams and I've actually overlocked this, but you don't need to do this because it will create a bulkier seam. But now we're going to fold the waistband in half with the wrong sides together and press this all the way round at the ironing board. So this is what the waistband looks like now that it's pressed. The wrong sides are facing each other, as you can see. So now we're going to put this to one side. Now we're going to take the skirt tier 1 piece and place this with the right side facing up, and then place the second skirt tier 1 piece on top of this with the right side facing down. We're going to want to pin the side seams. Sew along the side seams using a 1/2 inch seam allowance and finish the edge with an overlocker or a zigzag stitch. So I've just sewn the skirt tier 1 pieces together and I've also overlocked the edges. Now we're going to take the waistband piece and make sure that the right side of the skirt is facing out. We're going to place this over the skirt and align the side seams. We're going to align the raw edges of the waistband along the entire waist edge. At the back of the skirt, you need to make sure you leave a 2-inch gap. Sew this entire edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and make sure to leave a gap in the back skirt. So this is what the skirt should look like now that we've sewn the waistband to the skirt waist, and this is the gap in the back skirt waistband. Now we want to flip this waistband up and give it a nice press. I've just neatly pressed the waistband and it just helps make the next step a little bit easier, and you can also see the waistband starting to take shape. We're going to turn the skirt inside out and then find the back skirt point where you left the gap. For this skirt, you're going to need some 1-inch elastic. You're going to measure your waist and then minus 2 or 3 inches off that number to give you the elastic length you need. Using a safety pin, I'm going to pierce one end of the elastic. We're going to feed the elastic into the gap of the waistband and use our fingers to push it through all the way round through the waistband and out the other end. Make sure you don't lose the other end of the elastic when doing this. Now the elastic is out, I've aligned the ends and I'm going to sew this together at the sewing machine, and you can either use a zigzag stitch or you can sew over it multiple times with a straight stitch. So I've just sewn the elastic and I'm going to push this back up into the waistband and stretch the waist a few times to make sure the gathers that have formed are more even across the front and back skirt. Now we're going to sew the small opening we left in the back closed. It is optional to stitch in the ditch at the side seams of the waistband. I'm just doing this to ensure the elastic doesn't twist when I'm wearing it. So I've just sewn the gap closed. Now we need to finish the raw edge of the waist seam using a zigzag stitch or an overlocker. Just make sure not to catch any gathers when you're doing this. So this is what the seam should look like now that I've overlocked it all the way around and it's neatly finished on the front and the back skirt. We're going to place this to one side and focus on the skirt tier 2 pieces. This is the skirt tier 2 piece. We're going to pin them both together with the right sides facing each other. Sew the side seams with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and finish the raw edge. So this is what the side seams look like now that I've sewn them together and overlocked it. Now we're going to sew a line of gathering stitches all along the top edge. Start from one end and sew along all the way across to the other end with a longer stitch length. Make sure you don't backstitch and leave long thread tails at both ends. Then repeat for the back side of the skirt. So now I'm going to loosely gather the skirt tier 2 piece to the same width as the main skirt hem, doing one section at a time and pulling the bobbin thread to form even gathers and using my fingers to push them around. Place the skirt tier 1 piece inside the skirt tier 2 piece, making sure the right sides are facing each other. It's easier to align the side seams first and then pin along the rest of the edge, adjusting the gathers to fit. Sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance and finish the raw edge using an overlocker or a zigzag stitch. This is what the seam looks like now that it's sewn together and I've overlocked the edge. Now I'm just going to turn the skirt right side out. So this is what the waistband looks like, and we've got the skirt tier 2 piece here, and this is where we're going to attach the third skirt tier. So this is the skirt tier 3 piece. I've already sewn together the sides and overlocked it. Depending on what size you're sewing, if you're sewing sizes 6 to 18, you'll need to follow the exact same steps as the skirt tier 2 piece. But if you're sewing the larger sizes, you'll need to cut 4 pieces and then attach them together to create one front and one back, and then follow the exact same steps for the skirt tier 2 piece. So I've just finished gathering and attaching the last tier to the skirt, and this is what it's looking like. Now we're going to hem the bottom of the skirt. We're going to fold the hem over once 1/2 inch and press, and then again by 1/2 inch and press in place and stitch along the hem. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I sew the Amelia skirt. You can find the pattern on my website and I've left a link in the description box below.